Hi, my name is Kyle Clower and I'm with Serve Wisconsin. We are the Wisconsin National and Community Service Board. We work the AmeriCorps programs in Wisconsin and strive to promote national service and volunteerism throughout the state. We're so very pleased to be sponsoring the Governor's Service Awards again this year, and we're interviewing all of this year's honorees. And today we're talking with Amber Bydynkowski, who's being honored with the COVID-19 Response Service Award. So congratulations, Amber.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about it.
And then Amber, could you start off by telling us about the service you've been doing with WISCOR in response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
We started a disaster response crew once we found out about the pandemic and everything started closing down. Our normal programs weren't happening like usual. So we decided to do a disaster response crew, and I was actually the crew leader for that. And so there was a need in our community, and we decided to help out with that in terms of COVID-19.
And then how did WISCOR determine what the needs were that you'd try to address and how you'd be doing your service?
So we wanted to focus mainly on COVID-19 response, since that was what was most abruptly affecting our community. And so some of the things we did were working with outside organizations that were lacking their volunteers, lacking members to help out with what they normally do just because of COVID-19. So some of the projects we did, we worked with RSVP, which is Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and almost all of their volunteers were unable to help at that time. There was a wide open need right there to get in and help volunteer. And some of the things RSVP does, they deliver meals for elderly folks that maybe can't get to the store, or they help with homeowner projects, things like that. So it was really great to volunteer with them. And some of the other projects we did, we worked with Catholic Charities, we worked with the Salvation Army, and these are all places that normally have volunteers every day, and they were lacking in those because of COVID-19 and things shutting down and people not being able to be out and about and quarantining and things like that. So there was a need in our community, and we decided to help fill that.
And then Amber, could you tell us a little about your role as the team leader for the COVID-19 response team?
So myself and Justin Holton were actually the crew leaders for this crew, and we had about 5 or 6 people all together. And so some of our responsibilities were keeping everything organized. We ended up having a person that kept track of statistics. So we made sure that at the end of each day, we reported what we did to that person, and so they could record it on our statistics form. And then just making sure everyone stayed on task, making sure everyone was making it on time to their certain shifts. Like, for example, at Salvation Army, you had to sign up for a specific time, and we didn't all go together for that. So just making sure that everyone was being on top of their task and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And then who was serving with the COVID-19 response crew that you're helping to lead?
We were all AmeriCorps members. Our programs were through WISCOR in various departments. So a few of our members were from the Environmental Education Department. A few of our members were from the Conservation Department. And then we actually have some outside placements. So we have a couple AmeriCorps members that worked at the Boy Scouts this year. There was a couple that worked in our demonstration garden and at Kane Street Community Garden. And so we kind of just pulled in a bunch of our AmeriCorps members that were already working through WISCOR, but their programs had been affected by COVID. So it was kind of hodgepodge, all different departments from WISCOR.
And then what were some of the different projects you were doing as part of the relief efforts?
We did various things. We worked with RSVP, which is Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and they were lacking a lot of their volunteers due to COVID-19. And so we helped deliver meal packages. We helped with some homeowner projects through RSVP. We also worked at the Kane Street Community Garden, which is a garden that is available for anyone to use, doesn't matter who you are or anything like that. And so we helped prepare some food plots there for the growing season. We worked with Catholic Charities and Salvation Army just to cover some shifts for like serving meals. And then we also did some flood debris cleanup in the La Crosse area. There was a lot of trash and things like that down by the river, so we helped do that.
And then looking back at your service with the COVID-19 response crew, what might be some highlights from the experience or some moments from your service for these last few months that might stand out to you?
I think just how grateful and appreciative everyone was in general for our help and our service. It makes you feel really good inside when you feel like you're doing something really good and actually making an impact in these people's lives. A lot of the people were very grateful. They would have drinks for us when we get to their house, or they would have like cookies made and things like that. And so it was really nice to feel appreciated and that we were actually doing something good in the community.
And Amber, how do you think the service you were doing with WISCOR was impacting those in the local community?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we were doing was really critical to these people's lives. A lot of them are in high risk groups and they're not able to leave their homes or get to the store and things like that. And so, in terms of delivering meals, I think that was a huge deal for these people. It's helping them live and helping them continue on in their lives.
And Amber, I know that your AmeriCorps service prior to the COVID-19 typically dealt with conservation and environmental education, and that a lot of other organizations were shutting down their operations. So why did you feel compelled to help serve the community in this way during the COVID crisis when so many others were staying home?
Yeah, great question. I think that, I mean, we had the time. A lot of our programs were canceled and things like that, and the Myrick Park Center was closed to the public. And so I was actually part environmental educator, part nature center assistant. And so because the building was closed, we didn't have any reservations going on and our programs were canceled, school wasn't happening, so we didn't have any school groups coming. And so our time was just available, and all of the people that work at WISCOR are really passionate about helping the community and getting out there. So we didn't want to just sit around, we wanted to be out there making a difference, helping, of course, in a safe way. We were very cautious and we had protocols in place to keep ourselves safe while we were out in the community. And I think it was just, we needed to get out there and we needed to help. So.
And then after the official disaster response group finished this spring, I know that you continued serving with WISCOR with their environmental education program. So how did you help provide services in response to COVID-19 this summer?
So our environmental education programs were pretty impacted. Like I said, the schools shut down, so we didn't have any school groups coming. We normally run summer day camps over the summer, and we were able to do a few of them. We ended up taking it like a week by week basis. And so depending on what was going on in our local community with COVID-19 cases, we would decide whether or not we were going to open for the next week of camp or not. And so for the ones that we did open for, we had a ton of protocols in place to keep the kids safe. So we had carpet squares spread out individually, so you would be farther away from everyone else, and you had your own carpet square, and that's where you would stay. And then you also had your own nature kits. So there was things like your own bug box, your own dip net for the marsh, your own crayon box and things like that. So the kids aren't exchanging toys and other things like that. And so we had to make quite a few changes, but we're adapting. I think we've definitely come a long way since COVID happened, and we have really great protocols in place.
And then Amber, are you helping with the day camp programs that WISCOR is doing right now for younger students during virtual education this fall?
So I actually finished my environmental education term, so I'm actually no longer in that department, but they are doing nature school day camps right now, and it's kind of set in place to help those parents that work during the day. So the kids will come here and they'll spend the day here and they'll get some kind of enrichment out in nature and things like that, and then they can go home and do their virtual schooling once their parents pick them up. So it's kind of just another way to help during this COVID crisis. There are a lot of parents who still work during the day and have a hard time finding daycare for their kids and things like that. So it helps out there. And in terms of what I'm actually doing now, I started another service here at WISCOR as the disaster response crew leader, but we are focused solely on flood relief right now. So Monroe and Vernon County experienced a lot of flood damage in the last few years, particularly in 2018. And all of the initial flood cleanup has happened, but there's a lot of things that have kind of just been let go. And so we are working in various communities in Monroe and Vernon County to kind of help revitalize what has been left there. So for example, one of their baseball fields has been completely destroyed since 2018. And so they haven't had a baseball game there, and we're helping kind of renovate that right now in hopes of having another game in the spring.
And Amber, you mentioned that you're leading a disaster response crew this year. And I know that you're one of several AmeriCorps members throughout the state that helped on the disaster response crew last year with storm damage up in Oconto County. So could you tell us a little about your experience during that disaster response project as well?
That was my first experience with anything like disaster response related. And we worked with Team Rubicon, which is a really cool group. They were great to work with, very organized, and they were ready as soon as we got there. And they had derecho winds up north. And so there was a ton of trees blown over and a lot of damage that we helped with. And so a lot of what we did was swamping out debris as the sawyers were cutting up the trees and things like that. So it was a really good experience. We spent 3 or 4 days there, I think, and we all were housed in this lodge for the Boy Scouts. So it was kind of this community feeling. We're all sleeping on cots in this giant room, you know. So it was a cool experience, definitely.
And then Amber, thank you so very much for the AmeriCorps service you've done over these last few years with WISCOR and for stepping up to help lead their response to the COVID-19 crisis. And thank you so much for your continued service this year and your work leading the disaster relief crew addressing flood damage in multiple Wisconsin counties. Congratulations again.
Thank you. It's been a great experience so far, and I'm really excited to continue over the next few weeks.